A news network that's been part of American radio for nearly a century is shutting down. And somehow we're just supposed to nod along like that's a normal Tuesday. CBS News Radio is done on May 22nd. 700 affiliates gone. Every job on the radio team eliminated. And look, I want to be upfront about something before we get into this. This is an actual news story here, sure, and I'll give you the facts, but a lot of what I'm about to say is also just my opinion, and frankly, how annoyed I am about all of it. So, fair warning. This is the Tyler Woodward Project, and today I'm talking about the shutdown of CBS News Radio, why it's bigger than one brand disappearing, and why the changes at Paramount look less like a smart reset and more like another round of expensive management vandalism. So if you're not deep in the broadcast world, this might read as one of those inside baseball things where a bunch of radio nerds get sentimental over an old network cue. I get it, I do, but that's genuinely not what this is. CBS News Radio was not some dusty relic sitting in a corner because nobody got around to unplugging the thing. It was working. Stations were using it. It was doing what it was built to do. And that's what makes this so frustrating, because there's a difference between something being old and something being obsolete. A lot of media executives seem to have stopped caring about that distinction. Here's the thing about network radio services that people outside the industry really don't get. The most valuable parts are usually the least glamorous. Nobody's going to make a documentary about a clean top-of-the-hour newscast. Nobody's pitching that as a content strategy. But local radio stations were built around it. They build clocks around it. They build staffing decisions around it. They build audience habit around it. It's infrastructure. It's not supposed to be sexy. It's supposed to work. And when it works, it makes the whole station feel like an actual station instead of a Spotify playlist with a transmitter attached to it. So when CBS says this is all about, quote unquote, challenging economic realities and, quote unquote, a shift in radio station programming strategies, sure, I hear that. I also hear the translation. And the translation is this. This stopped fitting the spreadsheet. Which, fine. I know radio economics in 2026, it's not great. I know everybody's under pressure. I know every media company right now is desperately trying to be younger, leaner, digital first, platform native, synergized, and whatever other stupid buzzword got invented in the boardroom last Tuesday. None of that is new. But this doesn't look like a tough call made by people who actually agonized over it. This looks like part of a pattern. Axios reported that this is the second wave of job cuts since Skydance acquired Paramount last year. Same stretch of time, Paramount buys Barry Weiss's Free Press and installs her as the editor-in-chief of CBS News. Business Insider reported that Weiss told staff at CBS News that CBS News would be toast if it kept leaning on broadcast television, and that the focus should be on reporting people can't get anywhere else. And again, in theory, I don't hate that argument. Sure, be distinctive, be different. Don't just churn out the same stuff everybody else is already churning out. But here's the thing. Network radio affiliate services, it's not where you apply that logic. A top-of-the-hour newscast isn't competing on exclusivity. It's not trying to be distinctive. It's trying to be reliable, consistent, operationally useful. The value is that it's there. It sounds right, and the station can count on it every single hour without any drama. That's a completely different value proposition than what Weiss seems to be describing. And I think conflating the two is how you end up killing something that was still working. And okay, here's where I get really annoyed. I've heard from other engineers that some affiliates didn't even get a real heads up before the press release dropped. They basically found out at the same time as the general public. Now, CBS's own internal memo says the announcement timing was tied to obligations requiring advance notice to radio partners. So, the official position is we met our commitments. Everything was handled. Check. But if people on the station side were sitting there going, wait, I'm reading this on the internet with everyone else right now, then that's not partner communication. That's a press release with a legal disclaimer stapled to it. And if that's really how it went down, that is 0 fucks given. Because that's the insult on top of the injury. Killing the service is bad enough. But finding out about it in public, alongside the journalist writing the story, is a whole extra message. And the message was, you're not partners, you're just downstream. You find out when everybody else finds out. Radio is a relationship business. Always has been. You can automate the plant, virtualize everything in existence, move it all into the cloud, throw the word scalable around until everyone in the room goes, ooh, ah. And at the end of the day, it still runs on trust. Operators need to know you're going to tell them what's changing before they read about it online. Once that's gone, you're just a vendor, and not even a vendor people feel good about. The human cost in all of this is real too. CBS is cutting roughly 6% of its workforce alongside the radio shutdown, somewhere around 60 to 66 people. These are newsroom people who built something that lasted almost 100 years and still get told they were in the way of the future. The Writers Guild of America East, they didn't hold back either. They called the shutdown a sign of, quote, inept leadership, unquote, from Barry Weiss and Paramount CEO David Ellison. Unions aren't neutral, obviously, but also when the quote-unquote future keeps showing up as fewer services, smaller newsrooms, and less support for local operators, it's getting really hard to take that word at face value. Because what is the actual output here? It's not some exciting new model for public service journalism. It's not a stronger relationship with local stations. It's not a better radio product. The output is that one of the oldest radio news services in the country is dead. Hundreds of affiliates are scrambling right now, and a few dozen more people on the journalism side of things are out of work. Call it adaptation, call it transformation, call it strategic pivot toward future audiences. Media executives really do love naming the knife. But from where I'm sitting, it looks like management deciding that anything unglamorous is expandable because it doesn't generate enough buzz. And that's the problem. Because the unglamorous stuff is often what actually holds everything else together. Will affiliates find replacements? Yeah, sure. They will. Radio always finds a workaround. Engineers patch around broken things all the time. Operators rebuild their clocks before the week is out. That's just what the industry does. And honestly, it's really remarkable. But that resilience shouldn't become a blank check for corporate to keep blowing things up. They'll figure it out. That's not a strategy. It's a confession. Here's where I land on this. I'm not saying CBS News Radio was perfect. I'm not saying radio never changes. I'm not waving a flag for every legacy institution just because it's old. I'm saying this was a functioning service with real distribution, real affiliates, and real utility. And CBS's own coverage acknowledged it as part of the company's legacy, even as they shut it down. That's not an artifact. That's a live system somebody chose to stop supporting. And the way they chose to stop supporting it, the second wave of cuts, the affiliate communication, the broader direction under the new ownership, tells you something about what Paramount actually values right now. Sometimes decline doesn't show up as some big dramatic collapse. Sometimes it's a memo, some corporate language about strategy, affiliates finding out from a press release on whatever industry news website, and a May shutdown date for something that still mattered. And honestly, that might be the most radio thing about this whole story. The people who actually understood its value were probably never the ones holding the knife. I'm Tyler. This is the Tyler Woodward Project. Follow me on Threads of Blue Sky at tylerwoodward.me. You can also find me on Instagram at tylerwoodward.me. And make sure you head over to tylerwoodward.me. Got a brand new website up there. You can check it out. Send me a message. Let me know your thoughts. Make sure you like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube or Amazon Music, wherever you're listening. Leave a review. I hear that helps. We'll see. I'll catch you next time.